sorry, I just had mute. Hey everyone, great to see you guys here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you guys are based. Hello, Yellow Hearts. Welcome to today's AMA session. I have a very special guest with me today, Michael, the CEO of Andrometa. We recently just announced a partnership with them. I cannot wait to dive more into discussions about digital ownership, Andrometa itself, Nintendo, and where the gaming industry is at. So let's get straight to it, shall we? Let's bring Michael on to the show right now. Michael, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Really happy to be here with you, Chin. Super excited to chat this morning. I know late night for you guys. I love that we get to cover both sides of the world.
Of course. Very happy to have you on board, man. And, a lot of stuff to talk about. So, let's just get straight to it. Welcome, Michael. Thank you for joining today's AMA session. You have a very interesting background, right? Like when we first, met and connected, I had no idea that you were an attorney before, right? Top 40, under 40 attorney, right? You worked with the SEC on regulatory compliance. Can you share a bit more about your background and what kind of got you here into Web3 gaming in the first place?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, the tatted lawyer name is true to its word. I'm both a tatted lawyer.
Oh, nice.
So I got into crypto back in 2016. I was working at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Somebody actually had left a newspaper in the kitchen that said Ethereum is the future. And I had no idea what an Ethereum was. So I went super down the rabbit hole, started advising ICO projects from 2017 to 2019. Then I started advising politicians as to their approach to blockchain, most notably Andrew Yang's 2020 presidential campaign. And then in 2020 and 2021, smart contracts actually seemed like a viable technology. So I was like, and made the immediate connection to games and how these assets could be put on smart contracts and actually be tradable in a way that just doesn't currently exist in the traditional gaming space. And then I fully went full degenerate. Got super deep into the Web3 space. I was already a crypto degenerate for years, so it was just the natural evolution, I'd say. And now I find myself here at the helm of a beautiful new company in the space, hoping to change the Web3 gaming space and right a lot of the wrongs that we've seen over the last 3 years.
Amazing, man. What a journey it's been, from lawyer advising the SEC and working on compliance stuff to, the SEC. I don't know how it was back when you were there, but, everyone has a very negative view on the SEC, right? Especially you guys. I mean, now it's different, right? But like before, you guys were clamping down on, crypto and, was very anti crypto, right? So
I can tell you, when I was there, totally
Gary
different.
Gensler.
Yeah, totally
Really?
different. That was
Gensler
all Gary Gensler. That was all Gary Gensler. He led the whole charge. I do know that there was a lot of SEC attorneys that did not agree with the last 4 years of what the administration was doing. A lot of things just didn't make sense under the actual letter of the law. So it's really good to see today that all these things are changing. A funny story about Gary Gensler: he actually applied to Binance before he became an SEC employee. He got denied by Binance.
I know that. Hilarious.
Everybody thinks maybe it was a little payback.
Maybe, man. He just he hated Binance in the industry, right? Went off the CC, and the rest is history. But cool. I mean, now you're the CEO and founder of Andrometa. So let's talk about Andrometa, right? Not many people, in the Southeast Asian community know about Andrometa, but we're going to change that. We've recently announced a partnership with you guys, which we'll talk about a bit later. But let's talk about Andrometa itself, right? So you state that you're like a multi-genre game universe, and obviously the Nintendo publishing side comes as well. But we're going to dedicate a whole section to that because we have a lot of viewers who are really kind of waiting to hear more about that stuff. But you also have like gaming, 3D VTubing, anime, some AI stuff as well. So you guys are really doing quite a lot. So like in your own words, what is Andrometa all about? I'll give it back to you, man.
Absolutely, and really, really great question. And I can tell you from the inception of everything over the last 3 years, so many people were like, "Hey, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. How are you doing it all?" And it's so nice 3 years later through development that we've been able to prove, like, "Hey, we can do it all, and we can do it all the right way." So essentially, what Andrometa is we are an on-chain gaming platform and publisher that combines gaming, streaming, and anime all together under one umbrella. So the idea behind it is we created our own 3D model standard over the last 3 years. We created our own AI technology that essentially turns you as the player into creators. So what that means is the same 3D avatars that you use in game are the same 3D avatars that you can use as fully rigged VTubing models that don't take any added equipment to move around. So using just your cell phone camera or your laptop camera, you can do full motion capture with your actual 3D avatar that you play with in game. So the idea in Andromeda is you don't just play as a character, you become your character. And because we've now created this new 3D model standard, as we sign more games to our platform under our publishing label, and these games agree to update to our 3D model standard, that is the secret sauce that actually could make these games interoperable. Because now you have one standardized model that can move from game to game to game to game. And then, like I said, you can become that model as a VTuber, making private anonymous video content without ever showing your face for a way cheaper price than what it costs today to become a 3D VTuber. I think right now, today's 3D VTubing cost setup is around $3,000 between having the model created, rigged, and then buying the software that you need to move the model. We cut that cost by over 95%, opening the door for anybody to become 3D VTubers, 3D avatars, and like I said, you also being able to use these avatars in games. So we think it's the next level or the next chapter in immersive role playing, and we're so excited to be leading the charge here.
I mean, that is, we've been crying out for interoperability, right? And that's kind of music to my ears. Being able to play an avatar and also have it do streaming and all this other stuff that comes with it in real life, right? So multiple use cases, as well as being able to play in different games as well, which is sick. We'll touch upon that a bit later on, but I kind of want to talk about like your inspiration, like what kind of inspired you to create Andrometa, right? There's a lot of stuff that you're doing. So like, what keeps you going, man? What keeps you like, wanting to build more and more?
Yeah, so great question. I would say I take inspiration from so many different places. My 3 favorite things in life are game. Well, minus my wife. My wife is my number 1 favorite thing in life.
Good answer, man. Good answer.
Next to my wife, my 3 favorite things in life are gaming, anime, and crypto. And what I got to do is essentially take those 3 different things, combine them into one company that you guys see here today as Andrometa. So I wrote my own manga series. We have our own mangas. We have our own anime IPs. We have our own games out now. We have our own, obviously, like I said, streaming platform. And of course, with the blockchain backend, it's literally combining my 3 favorite things, aside from my wife, together into one beautiful company that I get to grow. And the thing about having a passion like this is I will do whatever it takes for this to succeed. And that's essentially been seen through our blood, sweat, and tears over the last three years of development.
Amazing, man. I love it. I love gaming. I'm not as big of an anime fan, but my wife is a massive anime fan. But yeah, very into crypto and gaming, and I love my wife as well. So look, we're very similar in that sense, right?
I love it.
Yeah. But cool, man. Look, let's thanks for the introduction. Now everyone kind of knows a bit more about you and also the company. Let's talk about the current state in gaming right now, right? So we all know gaming is going through a difficult period. And not only in Web3, but also in Web2, right? You've seen what's happened with the mass layoffs on the Web2 side, the failed projects like Concord, and even I saw recently that Marvel Rivals, NetEase game, did really well, right? Went on top of the charts, and then they laid off the whole team, right? So it seems like we're currently going through like a shift of some sort, a kind of rut. And you see that in Web3 gaming as well, where it's the token prices, the FDVs of all these of these projects are shrinking, right? And we've been kind of, as an industry, been battered over the past year or so from the crypto market. So how do you see the current state of gaming? What do you think has gone wrong?
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting question because when you look at traditional gaming and you look at Web3 gaming, you can definitely see that there's alarm bells with the firings, with obviously the FTVs going down. But I think there's different reasonings for both of those things. So, for example, I've always believed that gaming is recession proof, and I think the same thing is going to come to Web3 gaming, where it's actually going to be something that decouples itself from the traditional 4-year cycles that you see in cryptocurrency. The reason I think that is because gamers game no matter if the markets are high or if the markets are low. Yeah. The one thing, the biggest issue right now, in my opinion, plaguing the Web3 gaming industry is there's so many tokens that shouldn't exist in at all in the world. Yes. And the reason that they shouldn't exist is because they have no utility or no use case for the game itself. They're literally just being used as a speculative fundraising tool that the developer doesn't really understand how to sustain because they never planned on incorporating that in their game in the first place. So people wonder, why are my FTVs low? Well, A, you invested in one of the riskiest businesses ever in terms of one single game title. And then B, the developers themselves, they never signed up to make this gaming economy. They never signed up to make a token their product. They signed up to create really, really fun games. And so I think we keep seeing this cycle of really fun game, needing some money, launching a token that doesn't have any purpose, not understanding how to sustain that token, putting all of their money into sustaining that token, and then the game fails and the FTV, drops to the floor. So to me, I think that the biggest issue is all of these tokens that have no use case. Developers aren't able to focus on what they do best, which is develop games. And they look at these chains as if they're publishers trying to be like, why aren't you acquiring users for me and marketing for me? When in reality, these chains are just operating systems. So I think the current state of gaming just has a big hole, and the hole that needs to be filled is they need a publisher. There needs to be publishers in Web3 gaming, because for those of you who don't understand how it works in the traditional world, in the traditional gaming world, no one invests into specific titles. That's crazy, because even if a title is the coolest title in the world, there's no guarantee that it will do well. XDefiant is a good example of this. Great title, great shooter game, but they're closing up shop this summer because it wasn't able to catch on well enough. So what that tells you is it doesn't matter how good the game is. Good games are subjective. So to invest your money in a single title is the riskiest investment ever. That's why in traditional gaming, most people invest in a publisher, and with the publisher's acumen, expertise, and being able to kind of read data, they're the ones that take the risk on the single titles, adding them to the publishing label. So now you have an investment where your token is backed by a portfolio of games rather than one single game itself. And that's kind of this is the model essentially that we're trying to bring to the Web3 space to reinvigorate consumer sentiment in the space, and also just bring some focus and guidance to the space, because I've talked to so many developers that are just like, we have no idea what we're doing, because all they need to know how to do is build a good game. I've talked to chains that are like, everybody wants us to be a publisher, but we just want to be a technology operating system. We don't want to do the role of a publisher. So what that tells me is there's a huge hole to fill in this industry, and we are so happy as Andrometa to be the ones filling that hole.
I completely agree with that kind of analysis, and very bullish on talking more about Andrometa and like how you guys fill that void. I think we also, as VTGG, we speak to various different games. We work with various different games. We invest in different games as well, right? So we will also have our own portfolio of games. And what we see is that, first of all, you're very right. They're focusing on building a game, as well as focusing on something which they have no idea how to run, right? Tokenomics is a complex thing, right? I don't think right now one person or like one project has really nailed it. So you have these tokenomics advisors that are charging a lot of money, and they just don't know how to navigate this space, right? And they just want to build a game. But then you have this divide right now where it's like Web 2 and Web 3, right? The game. So you have two different focused audiences that are focused are interested in one game, like, you know, Web3 games or Web2 games, right? And you touch upon a really good point. You know, it's a technology layer, right? It's the blockchain should be seen as a technology layer rather than anything else, right? So like utilize the blockchain in order to give digital ownership to the community and let them have decisions and to allow them to trade the assets and all that stuff, right? So there is a fundamental issue, and we've gone through the different cycles of seeing different games come and go in the Web3 space as well. And I mean, I can go on for a long time about this because, you know, I can take it from a very different angles, from a gamer perspective, from a finance perspective, treasury management perspective. Like, we can go on and on, but we don't have that much time. So, you know, I'm gonna leave it there. But I agree with you. I want to ask, like, do you still see potential in, you know, Web3 game space? Like, do you want to see that divide, and how do you see a way out of this?
Yes,
like,
no.
Apart from you guys being like the publishing model, but like, you know, in terms of like, let's say the industry as a whole, like, how do you see us getting out of this, and like, what is that next thing that we can look forward to?
Yeah, no, really great question. So how I see our way out of this is I really think there has to be a paradigm shift of mental thought in the space. And that's from both developers to the retail players to the retail investors, even, in the sense that we shouldn't be pressuring all of these developers all the time to launch tokens, to just launch tokens. Because at the end of the day, these developers need to have an actual product before they're trying to sell people stuff. And I know that they're struggling for fundraising, but also, you know, if you're planning a game, you shouldn't go to retail immediately to get your fundraising for a game, especially if you've never built one before, because there's no guarantee that you're going to finish the game. 76% of games in traditional gaming that start don't ever get finished and don't ever go to production. So if you're a consumer out there and you're listening to a new founder and he presented a new shining new marketing video to say, hey, come buy this asset, and 20 months later we're going to have a game, don't do it, because it's actually the most risky thing that you could ever do, with the idea that 76% of games that start never actually get shipped. But to the point that you were making before, I really just think that we need to go back to where the ethos was in 2020 and 2021, where it wasn't about these massive token economies where you had the DeFi elements and all these things. It was more so about ownership, gameplay, being able to trade these assets back and forth between multiple different players. That was the ethos of Web3 gaming. And I will give a shout out to games like Nightcrows, for example, who are doing it right. I know there's some people that don't prefer that style of gameplay, but at the end of the day, Nightcrows is a blockchain enabled game. They have NFTs in the game. People can play and earn money by playing the game. It's literally all of the base simplistic elements that really created this Web3 gaming industry. And it doesn't get too crazy with the token economy, despite the fact that they have a token, and it's not their main product. And I really think as our games develop and as our industry develops, if your token is the main product of your game is going to fail. So it's one of those things that we need to start putting sinks in these games. We need to start having tokens that have utility. We need to create economies that actually, you know, make sense, but that shouldn't come before you make a great game. And so as long as developers focus on that aspect of making a great game that people want to play, then I think the industry is going to change. Also, stop making shooters. There's too many shooters. Too many shooters. Every new game in Web3 that comes out is a shooter. It's like I'm taking crazy pills. Stop making shooters.
That's actually true. Actually, there's an overcrowded market of shooters right now. Tons. I'm not gonna name drops, but you know, there are quite a lot.
The one thing there is first-person shooter games often fail, and I don't mean in Web3. I mean in the entire spectrum. In the last 10 years, there's been several hundred first-person shooter games that have launched on all platforms. Only 10 of them have been a success out of several hundred. So what does that tell you about first-person shooters? It has nothing to do with the game. It has everything to do with legacy titles just dominating the market share there.
Definitely, 100%. This is something which I can't remember, another AMA I was talking about, and it's true, right? It's the same, like Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, like these are the mainstays, right? They've been building for years and years and years, and they're not going to be like usurped from their position, right? So it's such a tough market to fight in and compete in. But I completely agree in terms of we need to focus on the game, and I feel like the Web3 gaming industry has kind of changed a bit, right? Especially from 2021, where I must say there were a lot of projects out there trying to raise a quick buck, and trying to make just money and rug the project. There were a lot of those, but there are legitimate builders which have stayed in the space and with legitimate backgrounds, who have worked on like big titles before, and they actually legitimately want to build something game changing, right? So there is, we're watching closely on a lot of these games that are coming out. Off the Grid is one of them, Maple Story, another is like Fableborn, and there's a lot of these others which people are watching right now to kind of save the industry. But I mean, there's you guys are building great games, which we're going to be talking about later on as well. But like I think the industry as a whole is changing, and we're adapting, evolving, improving, learning from the previous kind of issues and challenges that we faced. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens because, as you said, gaming is recession proof. So everyone's going to play games. Everyone eventually wants to trade their own assets and own their own assets, right? And I think it's inevitable. So I'm going to leave the state of gaming discussion on this, unless you want to add anything, Michael, before we move on to the next topic.
No, I think you killed it, and I hope the only thing I want to say is retail, wake up. Just wake up. Don't get fooled by these marketing videos. It happens every cycle, from ICOs to NFTs to Web3 gaming. Just be smart. Be smart about what you see and don't fall for the hype.
Amazing. Let's go, man. Let's go. All right. So let's talk about Nintendo accreditation. This is massive, right?
Yes.
Very recently announced, I think a few months ago, but you guys became the first Nintendo accredited publisher in the Web3 gaming space, the first in history. So congratulations to you and your Andrometa team. Like, it's absolutely amazing, right? So I have to ask, first of all, why Nintendo, right? Why did you choose Nintendo to focus development on Nintendo and not like PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam elsewhere, right? So yeah, why Nintendo?
Yeah, no. Great question. A couple different reasons. First and foremost, the vanity reason. Nintendo's my favorite. I started on Nintendo. I was 2 years old playing Super Mario. People were surprised I was playing the demo. Nintendo is very near and dear to my heart. I've played every huge title you can imagine on the Nintendo. So when we got that approval, it was literally like a dream come true. Like the email coming in being like, "You're approved by Nintendo." And now every time we get emails from Nintendo, I'm still in like shock that it's like from Nintendo. But the second reason though is there's such a high barrier to being able to become a Nintendo publisher. It's very, very difficult to receive that accreditation. And what people don't realize about the Switch versus like the PlayStation and versus the Xbox, which don't get me wrong, I'm a big PS5 and Xbox guy as well. But one of the biggest differences is the retention on Nintendo is much higher than retention rates on the Xbox and PlayStation for the same game. So I'm going to use Fortnite as an example. Fortnite, you can play across all three consoles. The retention rate for Fortnite on Nintendo is like 25% higher than the retention rate on the Xbox and PlayStation. So it just shows the player base is a little different. The types of games that the player base enjoys on Nintendo are a little different than what you'd expect on a regular console. And so as a company that focused first heavily on mobile games and then wanted to kind of expand the console, it made sense as well to focus first on Nintendo, because mobile games themselves do really, really well on the Switch versus actually on Xbox or PlayStation. So it's just natural growth and progression of where we wanted to go in the industry. And with Nintendo's 125 million active player base that are actually very loyal to specifically the Switch, it just seems like the right way to get our games into the hands of actual players. We're going to play them for a while and actually enjoy themselves in these games.
Amazing. I'm a massive Nintendo fan as well. I was in Tokyo last week and I went to visit the Nintendo Museum. I was like a child in there. if you get a chance to go, you have to go. It's actually a raffle system that you have to basically, it's select seats or like select tickets every single month, and you have to basically apply. Yeah, and they give you a raffle. Anyways, from the outside is very gray, just with a Nintendo logo. But when you go inside, I don't want to ruin it for you, man. You got to go. But so this is a big deal for me as well, right? Nintendo is very close to my heart. I mean, as a Nintendo fan to another Nintendo fan, like what's your favorite game?
Oh, favorite game easily is Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Oh my! Down. You stole my answer, man.
That's why we get along so well.
That's my favorite game as well.
Easily, no contest, hands down. No. Favorite Nintendo game all time. It's funny. One of our developers is kind of on the younger side, and he's a brilliant developer, but he's never played Zelda. And I feel every time I'll make a Zelda reference, being like, "Hey, did you remember this mechanic from Zelda?" And he goes, "No, I never played it." And I'm like, "Zan, I'm so sorry about your childhood."
I think the 64 era, like people can argue like the SNES as well, and 64 era. I personally had the best memories during that era, right?
Absolutely.
Mario 64 was a game changer, and then you had Ocarina of Time was like the first time we actually were able to explore this new world, and kind of Nintendo just kind of upped the level every single time, right? With Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, So I'm waiting to see what they bring up next, but don't doubt them. They always come up with like the most innovative gameplay mechanics. So I love that, and obviously this is huge for you, very big for me as well. But like, what do you think it means for blockchain gaming and mainstream adoption now that we have you guys as the first Nintendo-accredited publisher?
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest word that comes to mind is legitimacy. What it starts to do is actually legitimize the industry a little bit more, build a better reputation for these games, because if you're able to get games where gamers play, which is on these massive mega platforms that you'd expect games to be on, then we're starting to win. We're starting to trend in the direction that the industry has always wanted to go in. I think a huge thing for the industry is going to be retention and actual user acquisition, because the biggest issue right now in Web3 gaming is no one's playing these games. So by actually getting to go to platforms where there's real gamers, there's active gamers like the Nintendo, getting away from places that are like, oh, I launched my game on the Epic Game Store. Cool, but the Epic Game Store audience is very, very small, very, very botted at times. So it's like let's stop celebrating the low achievements and let's celebrate the high ones. So if your game gets on Steam, if your game gets on Nintendo, if your game gets on Xbox, PlayStation, etc., I'm gonna hype you up and I'm gonna celebrate you, because that's very, very difficult to do. And I think by having the first on-chain games launching on the Nintendo this year through Andrometa, we're going to start to see so much more legitimacy for the industry and so many more players in these on-chain enabled or Web3 games. I hate the term Web3 myself, which is why I say on-chain, but you guys understand what I mean.
Yeah. I completely agree there. Like, having access to that distribution channel, it doesn't even need to be Web3 versus Web2 anymore. It's a game, right?
Yep.
That has blockchain technology in the background, where you can trade on-chain assets, right? So you take away that divide of seeing it purely as like a Web2 game versus a Web3 game, and I think that this is great for the industry. So when I heard it, this was I think before I actually spoke to you, Michael, but when I heard about it, I was like, this is huge, right? This is massive. So like, I'm super excited to work with you guys on this. And
can I tell a story about how when we first met? So Chin gets on the call and he goes, Michael, I don't know anything about you guys. I just hopped on the call. Give me the rundown. And I was like, okay, so we're Andrometa. And he goes, wait, Andrometa? The first Nintendo publisher in Web3? I know everything about you. And it's just like, wow, this is great. A match made in heaven right here. So just wanted to say, Chin and I kicked it off from literally day one.
We did.
Maybe the first minute of the call. So it's
funny, right? Like my head of treasury, Mike, he like messaged me. This was like 11 p.m. Singapore time. I was like winding down. And he was like, I think you need to get on this call. I was like, oh, okay, what is it about? And he's like, just get on the call. I was like, all right, fine, I'll get on the call. And then because he didn't tell me he was speaking to you and Andrometa, right? So when he told me this, I was like, all right, I'll get on the call. And then when I go on the call, you're like, Andrometa. I was like, oh my days, like this is huge, right? Like let's work something out. So we'll talk about our partnership a little bit later, but I just want to talk about a little bit more about the Nintendo accreditation, right? Like you said it's very difficult to get that label, right? Like what's the kind of process that you kind of had to go through? Obviously Nintendo are known to be very stringent with certain standards. Like how did you kind of sidestep their do's and don'ts, basically?
Yes, no, great question. So really quick, but before I answer that question, I just want everybody to understand kind of like what a publisher is and why it's important, and then I can talk about why it's difficult. So what the reason why a publisher is important is anybody can go to Nintendo right now and say, hey, I want to publish my game on Nintendo, but to do so, you have to go through check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4, check 5, check 6, and then check 7 to then get on the store. As a publisher, you skip checks 1 through 6, and all you have to do is check 7, which is, hey, does the game work? Is it stable? Is it going to break it and like explode the console if we launch it on there? So by skipping the line, essentially what Nintendo's telling you is, hey, we believe in you as a publisher to vet these games enough to then launch it on our platform. So that's why it's such a big deal, and that's why it's such a high barrier to entry. The way that we have been able to successfully navigate this application process is largely due to one of my business partners. His name is Vijay Lakshman. He has over 35 years of industry experience. He's one of the original founders of Bethesda Softworks and also the former vice president of Universal Studios. He ran their game publishing division. So from his resume, he has about 85 titles that he's created, 60 of which he was the executive producer. So some of the titles you guys might recognize, like Elder Scrolls, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, Lord of the Rings Online, Skullgirls, the list goes on and on. So he's made games that were mega hits for Nintendo in the past. So once Nintendo realized, oh, it's Vijay applying for these credentials, they kind of looked at our company. They looked us over. They obviously know Vijay's reputation and the reputation of all the games he's created. And they're like, boom, rubber stamped. Hell yeah, you guys are in. It also doesn't help that the head of third-party partnerships at Nintendo used to actually be one of Vijay's underlings as a producer. So we have really, really strong relationships with their executive staff over there. And so every time I have a question, I'm like, hey, Scott, what's this? What's that? What's this? What's that? And they've been so helpful, so incredible to us as publishers that I'm so excited to go make Nintendo a ton of money over these next couple of years.
Very sick, man. Very sick. Yeah, very excited to see, the first title on the Switch very soon, which, this is a perfect timing for us to talk about, you guys and your ecosystem. And your game, right? So you develop your own hack and slash kind of animate type game called Swarms. It's spelt without an A, right? Swarms. Yes. And that's going to be the first Web3 game to debut on the Switch. Can you kind of give the community, like the W3GG Yellow Hearts, like an introduction about what Swarms is about, and why did you decide to build this type of game first?
Yeah, no, great questions. Swarms is a third-person dash and slash anime-style survival game where you have to fight through these various waves of enemies. As you get higher in the waves, the enemies drop certain resources, components, materials. You can use these resources, components, materials to craft bigger and better weapons, bigger and better armor, to then go into these other maps and fight your way through the waves even farther. The cool thing about Swarms is it's actually a training ground for a bigger MMORPG that we're creating. So if anybody's familiar with like Dragon Ball Z, again, big anime guy, you can imagine Swarms is kind of like the hyperbolic time chamber where you're going in, training for the big bad war that's actually coming to Andrometa. So the reason that we actually decided on Swarms or this style of game first is our first endeavor was to make a fighting game. And we actually back in January of 2022, we ended up contracting with a third-party development studio that we worked with for about 11 months. Once we got to month 11 with this fighting game that we're creating, they gave us the code, and then we realized that the code was BS. It was literally plagiarized code from another game that was completely fraudulent. And what we learned was, hey, we just lost 11 full months of development working with these idiots who were just making nonsense for us. So we ended up, my CTO and I at the time, Stan, we basically looked at each other. We're like, well, we could either pack it in and say, hey guys, we tried, or we could hire all of our own employees and do this the right way. So we ended up going the second route, hiring our own employees, building an entire studio out. And then VJ actually came in and was like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't make a fighting game, because surprisingly, fighting games are the hardest style of game to make in the industry. I personally thought it would be MMORPGs. He goes, no, fighting games are the hardest thing to make. So instead of making a fighting game, maybe we can put that kind of in the back burner for the future, make another game, get it shipped, make sure that our devs know exactly what they're doing. And luckily that game turned out to be Swarms. Swarms so far has been a major smash hit. If you see any content about Swarms on Twitter, on the internet, etc., please know that all that content is organic. None of it is paid for. People have been playing the game literally just because they like playing the game. People have been posting about the game literally just because they like how it plays, the visuals, etc. So if you haven't tried it out, it's currently in open beta on both of the iOS and Google Play Store. It will be the first game to launch on the Nintendo Switch this probably in May. You know, little alpha for you there. Nice. And then second, we're launching these huge updates for the game. So definitely stay tuned. The game actually is going to get so different, despite the fact that there's so many people already playing it. So really hyped with the results, with the feedback. And the one cool thing I can say about Swarms, developed every step of the way with the community. We used to have regular community AMAs where we'd say, hey, this is the development. This is what we're working on. These are the next features coming in the game. What do you guys think? And we would take the feedback. We would take people's yeses, people's no's, and we would actually incorporate that into the development. And that, in my opinion, is why we have the product or the game that we have today.
Oh, so, I mean, it's no small feat to actually start and build it from scratch again, like after, you know, such a big setback, right? So, you know, congrats to you guys for sticking it through, and also to bring the community involved, right? So like, I love that you're letting them really drive the direction of what they want to kind of see in the game, right? Because that's really the ethos which we wanted to kind of see in crypto and democratizing gaming, right? Is like having the community be a part of this process and like being involved in like the development and the feedback and like supporting the ecosystem. And we're all about that as well. So like, you know, we're going to be working with you guys. You know, I'm going to jump into that question afterwards, but I also want to let everyone else know that we're going to be integrating with Swarms as well. So, you know, we'll stay tuned for more news, but, you know, a lot of the exciting stuff to come.
Yeah, I wanted to just before we move on, I actually got to go on a conversation yesterday with a random person. He's a random investor that we've been talking to, and he asked me, he goes, hey, I just wanted to ask you, how is the Outcast Origins related to Swarms and related to Andrometa? And I was like, oh, you know, the Outcast Origins was an NFT collection. They're fully playable in our games. They're fully usable as VTubing avatars. And he goes, Outcast was the first thing I ever minted in the NFT space. And he was like, I actually forgot about them. They're on a wallet. I can't believe to see you here 3 years later, like actually fulfilling all your promises. And that got me so hyped because obviously I met one of my original mentors. It was it was his first NFT project, but he was just so happy to see that we didn't leave, that we actually did what we said that we were going to do, and that we're currently in the position that we're in right now. And so it's just so nice seeing holders coming back from like maybe leaving during the bear cycle and being like, oh my God, you guys exist and you built all this. And it's just such a fulfilling thing to see everybody so hyped and so happy.
I mean, that feeling must be amazing. Like it's no small feat to like be sticking around after 3 years still, right? And I think that goes to show like the resilience and kind of the passion that you guys have. You know, we all go through different difficult cycles as like gaming projects in the Web3 space. And we're here to help each other out, but we believe in the industry, and that's why the passion keeps driving us forward. And meeting your community member for the first time, you know, that's also something huge. And you know, for us, like I meet community members all the time, and we also now a lot of them actually work at W3GG. So like seeing them from like coming from a scholar to now working at W3GG is really something which we feel quite passionate about, giving them opportunities to kind of level up and contribute towards the gaming ecosystem. But enough about that one. We'll talk about kind of some more games that I have onboarded onto your ecosystem. So recently you announced like Beaverse, I think, and then Cocody Extraction Battle Royale. And recently we also announced our partnership together, where we announced we would be like a preferred distribution partner in Southeast Asia. So we would then empower gamers in Southeast Asia to have access to these high quality on-chain games with real digital asset ownership, right? So like, where are you kind of, what's your strategy in terms of where you want to take Andrometa? Where do you see Southeast Asia? What do you see W3GG playing a role in? That's kind of my next question.
Great question. So first and foremost, we're going to start at the high level. Andrometa is going to take over the world. So that's first and foremost. So if anybody is on the sideline right now, now's your time to get in. And the way that we're going to take over the world is by doing tried and true practices of distribution, user acquisition, and getting players in the games. Because like I said, the biggest issue with Web3 gaming is we're the players. So that was one of the really huge reasons that I'm so excited about our partnership and our relationship with W3GG, because W3GG is so good at user acquisition. They're so good at distribution. They're so good at localizing games. And that is the biggest issue with games. So starting in Asia, we are going to take over the world. We are going to get gamers into these games that we're going to be publishing. Obviously, W3GG is going to be distributing these games to the players, to these networks. We're going to be getting them on the Nintendo. We're going to be raising brand awareness for all these games. There's an old saying in gaming, and I think we're seeing it play out with traditional gaming right now, is you develop games in the West and you distribute them in the East, because the East, there's the players. They love these games. They're usually very, very passionate about these games, and they don't complain. Unfortunately, Western gamers like to complain about a lot of things.
They do.
A lot of things. And don't get me wrong, a lot of their complaints are justified. It just depends on what ethos you're from. But as a game developer, it's so hard to be putting your blood, sweat, and tears in these games and then just hear like, hey, why are you charging me money for this? And it's like, well, I have to unfortunately make a living somehow. So that's why we're so excited. And that's really the plan here is we get these games into people's hands. We get users into these games, and we allow these games to grow the way that normal games grow. Right now, doing it the backwards way of being like, hey, let me market to people who are only looking to extract from the game, make a quick buck off a $5 investment. It just doesn't make sense, and it's not sustainable. And that's why I give so much credit to games like On-Chain Heroes for actually having real token sinks for their token. I give huge credit, like I said, to Night Crows for actually creating a sustainable economy with I believe over 1 million concurrent players, which is so beautiful for a Web3 title. So it's kind of like, if you can build the player base, everything else in terms of economy, everything else in terms of trade, everything else in terms of all the peer-to-peer stuff that the traditional Web3 ethos wants will come. But the first thing that you need is the player base and the user base actually using the game that you're promoting.
Exactly. I mean, you touched upon some good points. Asia is a different kind of region, and especially Southeast Asia, right? Southeast Asia, Indonesians are avid, crazy gamers. Everyone's playing games.
We love Indonesia.
Yeah, I love Indonesia as well. So, my Indonesian team are amazing. I love going there and eating the food, and we got to host you over there sometime, man. Like, you got to come visit some of our in real life events. Like, we're gonna be hosting some cool stuff this year. We'll share some more information to you later on, but we have big plans this year, and also we have to have you on our podcast as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just so everybody knows, I do plan to move to Asia next year. So people, nice. So you guys understand how dedicated to this process I am and to this program I am. I am trying to move to Asia because it's our target region. It's our target market. I want to localize myself. I want to live amongst all these people that I hope share the same passions with gaming, anime, and crypto that I do. And so I can't wait. My wife's on board. We just have to wait a year because of certain citizenship, certain things. But we can't wait. So we'll be there, absolutely hanging out with you guys all the time.
Sick. Cannot wait, man. Cannot wait. All right, so we've got like 10 minutes left before we do like a quick question time. But you guys aren't only just positioning yourselves as like a Web3 publisher, right? So like you're like a gaming platform with immersive gameplay, VTubing, on-chain technology. So like, how do you combine everything, right? So you talk about owning your avatars that can do streaming, right? How does it actually work? How do you tie in the manga, everything together? Because I don't think it's been done before. I really don't think it's been done before, right? So like, how do you make all of this work?
So I like to say we're a little bit of Marvel and we're a little bit of Epic. And so what I mean by that is Epic Games was basically a games publisher as well as a technology company with their Unreal Engine. Marvel obviously is a multi-IP, transmedia company that kind of have all these various different verticals throughout all their IPs. So the idea behind Andrometa from like a Marvel perspective was we wanted to have all these various different IPs. They all live on their own planet in the Andrometa universe. So we have the Sevens, we have the Outcasts, we just onboarded Oni4s, and all the games in between. They all live on their own planets, but Andromeda's games, the ones that we develop internally, they're IP agnostic, meaning the conflict are all universal conflicts. So just because you live on your own planet doesn't mean you can't team up together to fight this antagonist coming to destroy the entire universe. So that's how we've kind of designed those games to make them IP agnostic, to have this feel of like I can traverse to this world, this world, this world, and this world, and it makes sense that I'm doing so. From the Epic Games standpoint of the technology and publishing company, so that's where our 3D model comes in. That's where our AI motion capture technology comes in. The idea here is we're creating this unified ecosystem where all these various different IPs live, where essentially there's something for everybody, from be it games, be it streaming, be it the actual mangas themselves. You have something that will entertain everybody. And the underlying reasoning behind that is to keep users on one single platform and make their essentially their entertainment streamlined, so they're not having to go here, go here, go here, go here, go here for all these different things that they want to do. They can just come to the Andrometa platform and do everything that they've ever wanted to do. And by doing it this way, we actually start to compete with places like Netflix, like Fortnite, for example, because Netflix isn't their biggest competitor isn't Amazon Prime or HBO or Hulu. Their biggest competitor is Fortnite because it's all about capturing that attention and keeping users engaged. And that's exactly all we try to do in Andromeda is provide those tools that do exactly that.
Nice. I it's so funny. You've touched upon so many things which I actually, feel the same way about. Like when I talk to people about Netflix, and it's time, it's attention that you're focusing on, right? So like understanding that you're fighting in that space, you can approach things a little bit differently. And I think you guys have a strategy in place in order to take Andrometa in the right direction. All right, so now we have 10 minutes left. We're gonna talk. I'm gonna give you some time to talk a little bit more about some things that we can look forward to, things that the community can look forward to, any kind of major updates. You mentioned Swarms will be coming out on the Switch. What else can the community look forward to?
Yeah, no, great question. So the other huge thing that we've been working on is this thing called New Meta City. I actually sent a video in our Telegram chat before, but basically what New Meta City is it's this giant anime style city. However, there's various different districts. So we have a traditional Japanese district that you're going to see. We have all these districts essentially related to the various IPs in Andromeda. And what we're using for the city is we are currently talking to all these various different brand sponsors. So real world brands like jewelry stores we've contracted with, a couple of apparel companies we've now contracted with, a headphones company. We're signing more every single day. But what we're going to be doing in New Meta City is we're going to be having these real world prize treasure hunts where you actually have to own one of our assets or one of our partners' assets to be able to get into these treasure hunts. And essentially what you do is you launch into these treasure hunts. You find a treasure chest. Let's say that treasure chest has an iPhone in it. You're super hyped. You now found an iPhone. Well, you now have to battle it out against the other hunters who are also in the treasure hunt to reach an extraction point to successfully extract with that prize. So that's what makes Swarm so important. When I said hyperbolic time chamber chaining grounds, what that means is you go into Swarms, you level up your character, you build the biggest and baddest weapons, because not just for the MMORPG that's coming, you need this experience and you need these high tier weapons for these treasure hunts, because if you're a level 1 rookie and you're going to the treasure hunt, you found something cool and you run into a level 30 veteran, well, guess what? You're probably going to get absolutely throttled and lose whatever prize you found. So everything in Andrometa is fully interconnected. We're super excited about New Meta City because we think it's a way for brands to reach consumers in a way that's way less invasive than just putting an ad in your face. And it now aligns kind of brands with consumers in a new way that just kind of hasn't been done yet, in an era where Instagram is declining, social media advertising is declining, and it's harder and harder to reach these types of audiences. Andrometa's here with that solution that makes gamers actually hyped to see ads, because it means they're going to win that prize, or they're going to win whatever's in that advertisement. So we're really excited for New Meta City. We've had a lot of great feedback from it. The team currently creating it and building behind it has been so wonderful, and I cannot wait to see how you guys battle it out in the first treasure hunt that's coming.
Nice. I mean, when can we expect this new mega city to be out? When can people start competing?
Yes, great question. So right now, the city actually just finished its construction. So the whole city's built right now, including interiors. There's a couple different polishing aspects that we're doing to it, but outside of that, the next step of the process is we've now integrated the treasure chest system into the city as well. Because everything, once you build something, people have to understand that you also have to code it. You have to put the actual coding logic of what should happen in that city in the city. So we're currently tweaking some of the physics for the characters, making sure that they walk correctly, run correctly, jump, fight correctly, etc. And so the next step in the process is actually integrating the treasure hunt logic, where you'll be able to fight each other in the PvP style battling. Once that's integrated, we expect New Meta City to be able to launch sometime in mid to late Q2 is right now is the expected date. Of course, things go wrong in development all the time. So definitely Q3, but the goal right now is mid to late Q2.
Okay, perfect. So you hear that, guys? Let's get training. So, Michael, you also said if you train in swarms, you can get, you can be on the same level to compete in New Mega City. Is that still the case? Like, do people need to play swarms in order to level up and be ready for to participate in that challenge?
I mean, you don't need to play, but it's going to help you so much, because it's kind of like I know you guys have seen any kind of anime like Sword Art Online, or you guys have played games maybe like Elden Ring, where you're a level 1, you run into the veteran, you get destroyed. And that's just normal gaming ethos, and that's why I love this space, because we're feeding into what gamers love, and it's competition, it's playing the game, it's the grind of being better than everybody else, and being able to flex on everybody else around you. That I was able to accomplish this because of my time spent in game, and I'm gonna use that and really take advantage of you. So if you're really fast and you're really shifty and you don't get hit by swords, you don't have to play swarms, but I highly recommend it. It'll make your life easier.
So you can just be a really sick gamer. Like, you've seen the ones like in Elden Ring where, it's like people are playing with their feet, right? It's like they find the hardest boss with like 1 health or something, and then they destroy the boss. Like, so you can do that as well, right?
Absolutely. That's next level. Unfortunately that's even out of the realms of my own skills. So if you're able to do that, super hyped for you.
All right, sick. Hear that, guys? All right, cool. So I think, do you want to show the video, Michael? Of
Sure, yeah, why not? Yeah. So this is a bit of a sneak of New Meta City, just so you guys have a better understanding of the size and enormity of the city.
All right, cool. Let's let me wait for my team to Nice. Oh. That looked great. I don't think they could hear you, Michael, but you can repeat it right now.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I just wanted to show that video off to show people the enormity of the city, give kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. There's going to be so many things that happen in the city when the treasure hunts aren't going on. That's why we feature the crafting video and that teaser video, because you guys will be in that crafting center all the time. We're actually going to be putting some casino games also in the city as well. So some mini games that you can actually bet on, all these good stuff. And then we're currently talking to some AI projects as well, because the one idea that we had that would be really, really cool, in my opinion, is if you got to train your own AI and then put this AI into an arena and have this AI battle it out against other AIs. So it's kind of like you're betting on your own trained version of yourself. It's just just providing fun, degenerate things for us to do, because at the end of the day, the Web3 ethos is degenerate, and we always want to hit that degenerate pain point every once in a while, as much as we can, while still providing a really fun and seamless experience for everybody.
For sure. And with that, we've pretty much run out of time, but I think we can have we have time for a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Who's asked? Just give me 1 second whilst I pull up the questions. But what can we expect, Michael, like in terms of, are you going to be at EDC? Actually, you are going to be at EDC. I'll see you at EDC, right?
Yes. GDC, March 17th through 20.
GDC, yes, GDC.
Yes. March 17th through, EDC, a little bit different. Party.
Yeah. GDC.
March 17th, I will definitely be there. I'm super, super excited to meet so many people. And the cool thing about GDC is there's so many people in the space going. So we get to meet all these people that we haven't met in person before. Obviously, our reunion, or our first union, is going to be very special. So I can't wait for that.
It will be. So you kind of you let me know where you're going to be. I mean, I've invited you to this private dinner, so I'll definitely see you there.
I will be there. Absolutely.
We have one question. What kind of incentive? Hold on. Where did it go? What kind of incentives or earning mechanisms do you plan to offer players and creators within Andrometa's ecosystem? Oh, it's a good one. What should the community expect with this project?
Yeah, really, really great question. So if you guys remember, what I had mentioned in the beginning of the show was developers don't need to be launching all these tokens because they have nothing to do with their game. So Andromeda's publishing model essentially fixes the space in a way, in the sense that our token is backed by a portfolio of games. So what that means is, if you're a game developer and you're assigned to our publishing label, what you can do is that in-game currency that you generate in game. So I'm going to use Swarms as an example. In Swarms, you generate an in-game currency called Andros. You can earn Andros through actually playing the game, selling in-game components to different players. What you can then do with those Andros, once you have our TGE, is you can burn those Andros to receive Shard token. And then with Shard token, you can do so many different things, from buying premium items in the NFT shop, buying new avatars, creating your own customized avatars. And then also what you can do is you can stake your Shard token. If you're staking your Shard token, you'll generate another token called Fragment. What Fragment is it's a totally untradeable token, so that means it's yours. What you can do with Fragment is, once you receive your Fragment, you can do a marketing task like creating a blog post, creating a review of the game, posting a video about the game, whatever. But once you do that, we will actually buy your Fragment tokens back from you, the holder. So it's a way to kind of feel as if you're participating and contributing to this publishing entity, helping us promote our games, and also being able to bask in some of the revenues that we generate as a company, creating this model where everybody's aligned, from the developer, from the player, from the user, and then from our token stakers. So it's a really, really cool way to earn. It's a really, really cool way to be involved. And then second, we're actually going to be doing regular buybacks of Shard token off the open market. And the reason that we're doing this is because that burn process, that burn treasury that I just mentioned, always has to remain liquid, especially as we continuously add more and more games into this burn mechanism. So in order to keep that treasury liquid, we constantly, as a company, will be using the revenues that we generate from the totality of these games to consistently buy Shard token off of the market. Obviously, what that does is it creates its own buying pressure on the token. But the beautiful part about it is it's not being created for speculative reasons. It's being created because there's actual utility of the token, and the token's actually being used for a significant amount of reasons. So if you guys can understand how having a sustainable ecosystem that backed by a portfolio of actual revenue generating games, how that can kind of change the ethos of Web3 gaming. That's basically what we're here to do today. So you can expect, hopefully, most of the games under our label don't have their own cryptocurrency token. Hopefully, they all buy into the system of putting Shard as that stable currency across all these various different games. And I have a feeling you're going to see a lot more games succeed under the Andrometa label, largely in part of W3GG and their distribution, and then second in part of how we've set up this token model and how it works moving forward.
Amazing. I mean, that right there is utility, guys. So we have, one more question, Michael. TGE.
Yeah, please.
TGE. That's what's been asked.
So we haven't.
What's the plan?
We haven't announced a specific date yet, but I can tell you what we're doing right now is in our TGE we have three private rounds before the public sale round. If you want to get in on the third private round, which is the community round, still about 40% underneath the public sale price. We are going to be putting out a sign-up sheet first for our holders, and then once our holders all sign up, we're going to be putting it out to some other communities that we're friendly with. So if you do want to get in on some of the alpha before the public sale, stay tuned in our Discord, stay tuned in our with our Twitter page as well, because we will be sending out some announcements very soon. And also the highly anticipated, highly awaited white paper. We plan to release it next week. So you guys can kind of read through it, make sure or see for yourself whether or not you want to be involved in everything that we're doing. But I can promise you we have big plans and we're not going to stop either way. So you're either jump on board now or you can wait to jump on board a year from now when everybody else is doing the same.
Super exciting stuff. And yeah, the TG stuff, stay tuned. Follow at the Andrometa on X to find out more information. We also be supporting some of these amplification of like our partners. So also follow the W3GG official account and, stay tuned for more information. But look, guys, time's up. I know everyone's probably loved the conversation that we've had already. But, we always have to end it. We'll have Michael on again soon. But thank you so much, Michael, for joining me today. I loved every single minute of our conversation. I can't wait to meet you in person when I go to GDC next week.
Yes.
And yeah, let's do things. I'm really excited about this partnership with W3GG and Andrometa. We're going to do really big things together and change up the game for Southeast Asia and beyond. So until then, my friend, I'll catch you soon. And thank you all for everyone who's listened and, stay tuned for more information. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Chin. I can't wait to see you next week. I hope you have the safest flight. I know it's a long one.
Thank you, man.
Coming in, but can't wait to see you. And let's do this again sometime. This was so much fun.
For sure. It was great. Thank you so much, man. All right. Thanks, man. I'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Take it easy. Bye, guys. Bye.